What's up, guys? It's Lollylord and welcome to a reaction video. This is going to be a bit different and it's going to be really long, so keep that in mind. I'm not reacting to a scary video, a VHS tape video, a trailer, a teaser, not expecting anything. Today, I am watching the one and only Uhyeah, bruv. You can't see that, but he made a video that I've been hyping up for a few days now because, like, wow. And it is called I Do Not Like Sister Location. And I want to see why. I want to see where the hell his reasoning is, because it's just invalid. Can you see it? You can't see it right now. What if I do this? Can you see it now? What if I go here? And then I go here. Okay, so I've seen the first 15 or so seconds of the intro, but not everything. This is, as you could see, an hour and 7 minutes and 33 seconds. So it's going to be a long reaction. That's okay, though, because I want to see... I want to see why he doesn't like Sister Location. I'm surprised that the thumbnail isn't "it's that bad" or "it's that stupid" or "it sucks that much" or something, and that it's just "it sucks." I'm also surprised about that thumbnail render. I don't know what that's from. But without further ado, I don't want to make this any longer. Let's just watch the video.
There's no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. This is clearly pushing the engine. There are just certain design choices that were made for this game that we don't fully understand. We were hoping that you could shed some light on those. You can walk, you can crawl.
You can.
It's equipped with some of the best environments this series has ever seen.
This is a new
It has a variety of gameplay styles.
I love it.
It even has an entire voice cast.
I like that.
With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Coffin.
Sorry, hold on.
I do not like Sister Location, but for the longest
Just kidding.
time, I thought I did. For years, I would look back at all the games and think of Sister Location as a standout title in a sea of repetitive back-to-back entries. I'm sure many people feel the exact same way about it that I used to, but after replaying it recently, I would be lying if I said I enjoyed my time with it at all. It's rare you play a game that you thought so highly of for so long, only to have that false reality shattered within only an hour of playing it.
Okay, I want to say something. This man is kind of right, okay? The baddest said that, Isaac said that it's an experience and the gameplay is trash. And even Night 4, it has gameplay, but it's not very good. And it looks like this man is the same thing. He looks back at it and it's good, but when replaying it, it's not fun in the slightest. It was fun for me, because it's kind of like revisiting a, I don't know, like childhood game. For me, that's Super Mario Sunshine. And, you know, no, it's not this. This is not a childhood game. Like, replaying Sunshine, I know a lot of things about it. Not everything, but I knew a lot of things about it. And it's just the magic of it. It's kind of the same thing. The feeling, the sheer feeling of me getting it on the PC and replaying it is just fun. And that's where the gameplay's at. Night 4 was tricky. Private Room is tricky. That's where all the gameplay's at. I don't need the gameplay for this because the atmosphere is great. Models are great. Voice acting is great. It's scary. I just like it. So, it's not all the gameplay. But he's kind of right. It's not as good. It's not as good when you're... It's not as good when replaying it, when you first played it. Like, replaying it, it's A. But to me, it's the first experience that makes it the best.
Within only an hour of playing it,
no, it's still
S. Is like one of those kiddie roller coasters. When you're younger,
he said he's not including the custom night either.
Insane thing ever. But the more time passes, the more you realize you're a 45-year-old man in a small rocket ship roller coaster isn't actually very interesting at all, and is in fact
I guess
quite bland and boring. Maybe you still try to fit into that now tiny seat out of pure curiosity, but the ride soon to follow is guaranteed to be one that will never live up to the expectations you set in your head when you were younger.
It's kind of similar, but not really.
A roller coaster has significantly more value than Sister Location, because you can burn it down to scraps and metal to build something worth way more money. If you buy Sister Location, the best you can do to improve it is to install one of the many mods the community has made. Oh, never mind. Very quickly, Sister Location went from one of my favorites of the original Scott games to my absolute least favorite.
Okay, that's when it crosses the bar. How? This is worse than 4? Obviously, it's not worse than Security Breach, but, like, 4? 4 is, like, B to me. I feel like Fiznom hates it, and Astra loves it. And FNAF 4 is in the middle. So there's no way this is worse than that. And even though FNAF 3 is A, it's worse than 3 and 2? I just don't fully understand those choices you made, Mr. Oh, yeah.
But why? How could such a seemingly fresh and innovative entry in a series known for getting stale at points be so bad?
I don't know!
Well, to get into all of that, we first have to look back at every FNAF game before it.
I don't really want to pause because it's a long video.
Trust me, it's worth getting this out of the way now, and it won't take very long. I guarantee you I can do the shaky vent part of Sister Location, just stay in place, and not get jump scared by the time this section is over. In fact, I'm so confident in this that I'm going to save you the effort of booting up the game and keep a vent cam in the corner of the screen so we can make sure I'm telling the truth. FNAF 1 is seen by the general public as a spooky jump scare survival.
You can't die in the vents! I don't think you can die in the vents. Also, that can clearly be a loop, I'm just saying.
And yeah, it is, but if you've played it before, you would know that there's way more to it than that. It acts more like a strategy game where you need to keep track of a bunch of things at once to make sure you can survive the full night. To me, this is the core of Five Nights at Freddy's, at least the original run of the series. Every night, new threats are added or made more aggressive to test the skills
I like
of the player,
the original formula,
sure
but Sister Location feels more like a game.
Boiling down FNAF to its basic gameplay elements,
like a story mode.
One gameplay loop that is constantly being made more difficult as you continue to play each night. That is Five Nights at Freddy's from a literal gameplay standpoint.
Yes.
This formula is then followed loosely for the next 3 titles in the series.
Yes.
FNAF 2 has a different gameplay loop from 1,
don't like
the structure of the game and how it increases in difficulty.
Mask is cool for
each night, more stuff is added or made harder until you beat the game. FNAF 3, while only having 1 animatronic technically, introduces the Phantom slowly throughout the nights.
2 doesn't have that good gameplay. 3 has bad gameplay.
Springtrap, of course, gets harder to deal with each night of the game as well. FNAF 4,
still easy
again,
though.
Follows the basic.
This one sucks because I play it on the Switch,
sure, it's a
so the 2 doors are broken.
Games in its presentation and style of gameplay loop, but at the end of the day, it's still a series of nights that follow the exact same gameplay loop that adds or adjusts threats as the game progresses. You may be thinking after all this, of course Scott would want to try something different after 4 games in a row following the same core gameplay philosophy.
FNAF World.
And you're not wrong. He decided to make a game called FNAF World. This game, while maybe not being super relevant to the conversation at hand just yet, is still an important turning point in the series to bring up. Since this game is an RPG and not a typical FNAF game, there was bound to be a whole lot more writing and a direct story compared to the previous entries. Which is true. However, it's the way the game was written that's really important here. A majority of the writing in FNAF World is very self-aware and full of jokes. This, of course, works fine for an RPG spin-off.
Okay, you know, I'm a pause for hopefully the last time, or one of them. I remember watching the charity stream, like, a bit of it. I didn't see the whole thing. But I remember they were talking about how the game sucks. Dog poop. And they were talking about how the jokes are terrible. It's humorous. Kind of. And the TV shows are fun to watch. And sometimes Hand Una is funny, like Ex-Benedict, Angsty Teen, everything. It's just funny. I'll admit everything else is not that funny. But the beginning of every night, except for night 4, and the TV shows are nice. And the exotic butters.
To take itself very seriously. But just keep that in the back of your head as we continue forward in this video.
I know he's going to talk about that, and I don't agree with it. I respect the opinion. You really need to convince me.
This game is very different from the other mainline FNAF games that came before it, opting to be a point-and-click style game with mini-games spliced here and there. Sister Location completely throws away the core FNAF gameplay.
Yeah, he was saying that it's just a bunch of mini-games, which I can kind of see, but...
gameplay loop that we were just talking about, which in theory could work if the game was still fun. So, does Sister Location do a good job moving the FNAF series forward by removing the gameplay that made it so interesting in the first place? Dude, just read the title, we're gonna be here for a long time. Hey, I think it's about time we check back with our shaky vent. Surely something has come to jumpscare us after all this time waiting and doing absolutely nothing when there is a very clear and active threat being presented in this situation.
You can't die.
Surely this entire section isn't designed to just catch the player off guard only the first time they play the game. Oh wait, it is? Damn, okay, wow, oh shit. What's gonna happen? Oh no! I hear noises! Ah! I'm gonna die!
I wish you did have a chance of dying. Maybe not in night one, but in the other nights.
That are bad. I'm gonna die. Kill me! Hello? Oh, I think it gave up. Sister Location,
I think it gave up.
Sister Location, Sister Location. Where do I even begin with you? I have never had more to say about a game in my life. Surprisingly, I do have some positive things to say about it, which may come as a surprise to you after that entire intro section. But don't get it twisted. For every positive thing I have to say about this game, there's about 10 negative things bouncing around in a harmless shaky vent, just waiting to be blurted out. And yes, that whole shaky vent section was a bit of a joke, but it does help illustrate one of my biggest issues with this game. This is by far the least replayable game in the entire series. Every FNAF game before this encouraged a ton of replayability, whether it be through the inclusion of a custom night to mess around with the game's core mechanics on harder difficulties, or extra challenge modes, such as those found in the FNAF 4 Halloween update.
In FNAF 4, there's extra content, but I don't want to play it again. I beat Nightmare mode, but 420 mode is just so bugged on the Switch, I just don't want to do it. Until there's an update on console, which I don't think is ever going to happen.
Different team each time encourages replayability.
FNAF World is probably the most replayable.
Aside from its own custom night mode, which we will get to much later, lacks any replayability in a series pretty much famous for it. Not only can you not replay any of its minigames on their own for some reason, but the game is absolutely littered with scripted events that become more and more obnoxious the more you play the game. The shaky event, for example, would have been a really easy section to turn into actual gameplay rather than a scripted event. You're trapped in this tiny vent, trying to get out, and all of a sudden, you're a bunch of loud noises and the vent begins to shake. In the actual game, this is just a cheap scare that adds nothing to the overall game really. But if the gameplay was put first here, there could have been something really similar to the tiny vent music men from Security Breach. Sister Location insists on treating itself like some kind of free roam game. You have to use WASD for pretty much every single movement action, including pressing W to go forward in the vent. It's fine to set up a game like this, but at least utilize the fake free roam in interesting ways. For example, instead of this stupid vent section being just for spooks and not actually dangerous in any way, give the player the ability to turn around in the vent to look behind them. Turn this boring, pointless vent section into a minigame where you need to turn around every time the shaking happens to scare away the biddy babs, making the ruckus at the end of the vent. It doesn't even need to be a very long gameplay section, but it at the very least adds more gameplay to the game overall.
I can imagine that getting even more repetitive though.
Repeat playthroughs. Instead of, oh boy, time to go through this stupid vent again and hear the scary noises.
That can be super repetitive,
oh
holy
boy,
crap.
Time to play this part of the game again in this video game that I enjoy and respect. Yes,
yeah, but it's repetitive.
I will talk about a 10-second section of this game that nobody has ever thought of in probably literal years. Anyway, the game is literally full of shit like this. I'll go into more detail on each one as we get to them, but I just wanted to give you a little
gallery
taste
is probably
of
the best of
First though, we need to talk about something that doesn't even have to do with the game itself really. We gotta talk about the box art. Well, okay, it's hard to call it box art when it's really just the cover for the digital game.
Oh, it's Freddy when it's not, baby.
Let's take a look at the box arts for every FNAF game up until this point. Except for FNAF World, because literally, who cares? FNAF 1, Freddy Fazbear is front and center. Makes sense, it's the first game, and he's literally the namesake of the series. FNAF 2, Withered Freddy. Once again, makes sense, and looks a lot better than if Toy Freddy was on the cover. Sorry, Smike. FNAF 3, Springtrap. This makes sense. While not the namesake of the series, He's the only
There
real
is a Sister
animatronic
Location
in said game,
version.
and is the main antagonist of it. It would be pretty weird if this
Like,
game
there is a
all
Sister
about
Location
Springtrap and his story and lore
Circus
had a picture
Baby
of Phantom
art.
Freddy on
Like,
the cover,
especially in, like, the
right?
eShop and the
That would take away
PlayStation
from the importance
store.
of Springtrap
Probably
in this
Xbox.
game. Okay,
I don't
so
have one,
clearly
but
Scott
I'm
is not
expecting.
above using different characters for the box arts if said character is extremely prominent in the game. Good to know. FNAF 4 Nightmare Freddy. You could argue that Nightmare Fredbear would be more fitting here, but he's supposed to be a surprise in the game since his design was never fully revealed before the launch of FNAF 4. Using Nightmare Freddy here makes a lot of sense. Okay, so now we're at Sister Location. You'd think that Circus Baby would be front and center here, right?
Then what are you showing? Yeah, it's marketed as Funtime Freddy. But in the stores, the digital stores, it's like this.
They guide you through the entire game. Their
It's only
design
like
isn't
the application. That's the Funtime Freddy part. Which I don't think you should care about.
Isn't a secret, as it was shown extensively in teasers and the trailer alongside the literal intro and literal title screen of the game. Okay, so let's see it. What's the box art for Sister Location? Funtime Freddy. Funtime Freddy. A character who is, yes, in the game, and yes, has a lot of screen time, but isn't that important overall to Sister Location, and is clearly taking the spotlight away from a much more obvious candidate. Wow, what a stupid point. Why would you even bring this up? Yeah. Or even trying here? Blah, blah, blah. One, clearly Click Team and Scott thought this was important as well, because guess who's on the box art of the console ports of Sister Location? That's right, motherfucking Circus Baby. And two, I'm using this kind of funny note about the game to segue into a much bigger point. That being that Circus Baby is heavily underutilized in their own Star game. This is the
At least it's not a
Circus Baby
Vanny.
game.
My
So
God.
tell me why the only render of her in any of the actual gameplay is her lifelessly sitting on a fucking conveyor belt in one of the worst sections of the entire game, which
it's mysterious.
We will get to later. For
It's
a game that
mysterious.
focuses so much on Circus Baby,
Also, the worst
and
part
has
is
so
Night
much
Day.
of her talking and building a bond with the player, there sure is a major lack of her physically being there. Ever. Even if all her renders were kept in heavy shadows, it would at least be better than literally almost never seeing her at all.
I'm fine
never
with
see
that.
her behind the glass here.
It's mysterious.
She never jump scares the player once in the entire game, despite
'Cause it's supposed to be
essentially
your
being
friend.
the main antagonist. And no, Enter does not count. I'm talking about Vanilla Circus Baby. And she isn't even included in the obviously not canon custom
Because she's your friend.
for
She's your
literally
sister.
no reason whatsoever.
Sorry to bring in the lore, but she's your sister.
What is the point of ignoring her so much? If Scott wanted to create this character that never shows up and just guides the player around, that's fine. But there are so
trying to be
many
critical
sections
in
in
this
game that would be
and nice
visually
at the same
enhanced
time.
by a sliver of Circus Baby physically being there. For example, when the lights go out in this one section and she starts talking to you, would it not have been sick as hell if her face lit up behind the glass in the darkness, FNAF 1 Freddy style? Or, once again, bringing it back to this awful conveyor belt section, why the hell doesn't she jump scare the player here for messing up the code
She's your
instead of
friend.
maskless Enter doing it? Having her spring to life and jump scare the player from a lifeless position
She's your friend.
would have been an insanely cool visual. And don't use the, oh, she's still trying to trick the player at this point of the game, she wouldn't hurt you, oh, Circus Baby would never hurt you excuse. Assuming that the player character dies here regardless, I would rather it be by Baby turning on you than maskless Enter popping up when they show up yet again in the section directly following this one. I will not take story reasons as an excuse for lackluster gameplay or missed potential.
Why?
The story literally could have just been tweaked to include these extremely weird
Mike.
omissions. Here, I'll tweak the story right now to make this Baby section better. Have it so messing up the passcode canonically puts Baby into some kind of attack mode, and she jump scares the player out of her own control. Boom. I just made this section slightly cooler,
But
and the story
it's
is literally the exact
Elizabeth
same,
Afton.
just with one new detail
It's
added. that
Elizabeth
never has to be brought
Afton!
up ever again. What really stings, though, is that Circus Baby did.
Hold on, I need to get my... Hold on, I need to... You see that? You see that? It's an Among Us. Hold on. I have to be squeezing this the entire time because so far these points are not good. Bro's making me angry for like the first time. How?
Did eventually get a jump scare in a Scott FNAF game when UCN came out. But if you know anything about that game, you'd probably know that pretty much every single jump scare sucks complete ass. And Babies is no
FNAF
exception.
ones are good.
The jump scares
Sister
in
Locations
Sister Location
are good.
are genuinely some of the best in the entire series.
Yes.
The idea of the animatronics having faceplates that open up to reveal creepy looking endoskeletons
It's like that in Custom
is
Night.
incredibly creative, and easily one of the best things about the entire game. In
Yes.
fact, I'm gonna rank every jump scare in the game right now. Biddy Bab. Not as interesting as some of the other jump scares in this game, but I like the tiny faceplates. 6 out of 10. Ballora. Her endoskeleton
That's
looks
probably my
fucking
favorite.
terrifying, and the fact it happens from pure darkness gives it bonus.
Oh, hold on. How's Ennard
8 out of
better?
10. Funtime Freddy.
How is
Pretty good,
Ennard
but not as good
better
as
than all of
7
these?
out of 10. Funtime Foxy. I shit bricks every time I see this. 10 out of 10.
This room just filled.
Holy shit! Yeah, I didn't fucking expect that. Bonbon. On its own, it's okay. But the PNG texture of a flashlight blocking out most of it brings it down a few pegs. 5 out of 10. Mini Rena.
Oh, it's just going in
but
order.
7 out of 10. Maskless Ennard. It's okay, but the lack of any super fast moving parts like the fun times hurts this one. 7 out of 10. Ennard. You could have told me this was a UCN jump scare and I would have believed you. 2 out of 10. In fact, I'm not done talking about this jump scare, because it is genuinely one of the most odd decisions from a visual perspective in this entire game. From multiple renders, we know that Ennard's mask can open up similar to the Funtime animatronics. This
Yes.
opening of the faceplates is what makes these jump scares so effective in my opinion. And the customized jump scares that lack them are significantly worse because of it. So why was Ennard given the ability to open at least a part of their mask, just to never use it in any of the jump scare animations, when it would have made them significantly
The animation
better?
is
This
good,
is probably
though.
the jump scare you will see the most in the entire game as well. So having it be the literal weakest one is a major oversight. At least Scott added multiple variations of the Ennard jump scare depending on the circumstances you die in.
Must there be hell?
Thank you for all the skippable ads.
But they're all pretty much equally shit. Anyway, back to Circus Baby's UCN jump scare. This being her only 2D jump scare in the entire series is such a shame, and it really just makes her not having one in the game sting even more. Yeah, I know she has one in FNAF VR as well, but it looks pretty garbage. Her faceplates barely move. TLDR, Baby got screwed over in her own game, and that sucks. Am I done with the introduction segment
The
yet?
mysteriousness
Can I talk
is
about
so
the entire
good.
game from start to finish now? No. Story? What do you mean I have to complain about the story? When have I ever talked about story in depth in a FNAF game before? If only I knew someone who actually
If
cares
anything,
about
it's
the
better
FNAF
than
story
FNAF 4.
in the slightest.
It's
Who
not
could
that
complain about
bad.
the story for me.
I like
while
the
sit
Elizabeth
back and
Afton
eat
is
Sister
baby
Location
thing.
brand popcorn. Okay, buddy. Whoa. Okay, yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
Foster, you better not make me angry. You better not. Please. Be nice to me. Have mercy. Thank you. I was there, thank you.
Despite being the game with quite possibly the heaviest focus on storytelling in the entire series, Sister Location always felt like it didn't fit in narratively. It introduced concepts and
auto-generated.
environments that were so over the top that it completely spoiled my immersion with the world that Scott built in the previous 4 titles. You see, despite introducing many unrealistic ideas, the FNAF series was one which felt
I love the gun
grounded
under.
enough in reality to be immersive. FNAF 1, for example, while featuring a premise which could never happen in real life, presented a real enough setting and story that one could suspend their disbelief while playing it. The same applies to the other 3 games which came after. FNAF 2, while being much bigger and more chaotic, kept to the dingy pizzeria style of the original game that we expected. FNAF 3, while introducing an extremely over-the-top concept like springlock suits, did so in a way that felt grounded in what the technology of the
It was not
series was
scary.
capable of. 4, of course, was a big departure, but it
Terrifying.
felt grounded due to the nature
For
of
all
the
the
game
correct
being set in
reasons,
a dream and being
which
in a
isn't
very
that
personal
good of a sign.
environment like a house. When we look at Sister Location, Location, though,
This
this game
ambience is okay.
completely jumped the shark with what the technology in the FNAF universe was capable of. The environments and animatronics in this game are far more advanced than anything we'd seen before, and while they both end up looking
You're acting
really
like
cool,
security breach
they
literally
completely
doesn't
break
exist.
The ability to suspend your disbelief. The other big problem this poses comes into play when we're supposed to pin this game's story somewhere in the pre-established timeline. There have been arguments for years about when Sister Location is supposed to take place, and the
Before
big
FNAF
problem
4.
with these arguments is that no answer makes sense with what we know from previous
It's
titles.
before FNAF
If Sister
4 because
Location were to
Elizabeth
take place
dies.
Before FNAF 2 or even 4, then that would mean not only was William Afton building murder robots before the missing children's incident, but that extremely advanced robots like Circus Baby existed alongside the original FNAF 1 crew of animatronics. If we're to try to pin this game as happening in the future, there would only be a couple of places it could possibly fit in. It would have to take place after the closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but it would also have to take place before the events of FNAF 3 since William Afton was the one who built these robots. That would most likely leave Sister Location as happening sometime in either the late 90s or early 2000s, which still doesn't add up with what we know was possible at that time in universe.
It's Springlocked.
Now, trying to peg this game somewhere in the timeline
1993.
aside, let's take a look at what this game individually brought to the series. In my opinion, the ideas and lore that Sister Location brought to the table permanently changed the FNAF universe in a negative way. The heavy sci-fi approach led to many concepts which would become staples in later entries, as well as being retconned to exist in previous ones.
This might be a hot take, but I think that the sci-fi turn and all that, yeah, it's no longer scary. It's not scary anymore. But it's still not terrible. Like, when you think about it, it is cool. It is cool. It's just not scary. Which, it's lore. I don't care if it's scary or not, really. I only care about that in FNAF 1, 2, and 3. Even 4 messed it up alone. So, Sister Location, it's not that big of a problem. Like, Illusion Disc, it's fine. Elizabeth being inside Baby, it's fine. Although Illusion Discs are weird, it works, so I don't really care.
Causing the series to spiral in a much more ridiculous direction. The prime example of these concepts I'm talking about being Remnant. Giving an explanation to the paranormal in a way that boils down to a science, to me, completely kills the eeriness and mystery behind the possessions, which made the series interesting in the first place. What went from a simple story of ghosts and hauntings turned into a sci-fi narrative about giant scoopers making these things
I wish that.
is possessed, and a mad scientist trying to harness it for immortality. And the way we see this concept explored led to one of the most ridiculous moments in the entire series, where we see a rotten corpse possess its own dead body because of Remnant. I know that there are a lot of Michael Afton fans, but this is a piece of lore I could just never understand. By making this happen,
I know he doesn't like the
just
lore,
kills the point of possession to me entirely. Now, moving on from Remnant, there is one more thing I'd like to discuss that Sister Location added and changed, that being its portrayal of William Afton. Now, this may be a bit of a hot take, but I feel this game was the beginning of William Afton's downfall as a character. To me, what made him work in the previous 4 titles was how grounded he was in reality and mystery. All we knew about him was that he was a child murderer in some small town who eventually died himself.
He turned into a dad.
This was a much more simple version of the character, but one that worked because he felt like he could exist in real life. However, when Sister Location released, we saw this character shift from his original idea into that of a mad scientist, building robots that defy any form of reality and using them to research Remnant to become immortal. It was such a massive departure from the original character we knew, and I felt like it was such a massive jump that it completely killed any creepiness he once had. I'm not against giving the character a name or or personality, but completely changing what he does in
It's
the
still cool, the
story
fact that
like
he
this
killed
makes him
kids
feel
and
like
he
a
got the
completely
ultimate
different
karma.
character altogether.
Still cool.
And this massive change would spark his continuous downfall in the series to me, with him being depicted like this in Pizzeria Simulator, and then becoming even more cartoonish with his portrayal in Help Wanted, and then Security Breach. Giving an explanation to a mystery or character isn't the problem here. It's the way Scott went about it and what he chose to explain. William Afton is a character that was explored in a way that never felt intended with how he was originally written. And Remnant is a concept that nobody asked to be explained at all. Both of these poor explanations were given to us in a game which departs so far from the series that it just doesn't fit no matter where you try to pin it in the timeline as a whole.
That's why
Makes this
MatPat
game
doesn't
almost
try
feel
to
like
do the
it's
timeline.
supposed to be there. I feel like Sister Location would have benefited the most from just being its own unique story that has nothing to do with FNAF, because
Sure.
as it is, it feels
Fair.
very alien from the rest of the series.
Fair.
Those are just my thoughts, though. If you disagree, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this game and the way it's presented.
I'm reacting
I
for a
always
reason.
love to see different perspectives on the storylines like this one.
How is he
especially
getting
in a
so close
community
to
with
Bon
such
Bon?
differing opinions like
Hold on, hold
FNAF
on. Look at the clip.
storylines like this
Look at the
on this
clip.
game and the way it's presented. I always love to see different perspectives on the storylines like this one, especially in a community with such differing opinions like the FNAF franchise. Anyway,
just don't
though,
understand
I think
that.
it's time I stop my rambling and give the spotlight back to Uhyeah.
At least he
Goodbye for
was
now.
chill. Oh yeah, it's like this game
Okay.
is F tier.
Okay, there. Now you can't complain about me not talking about the story. Well, actually, you can technically still do that since I didn't actually talk about it myself, but you'd probably look stupid doing that. Also, by the way, please go check out Pastor's upcoming analog horror series. The link will be in the description. Okay, thanks.
I will.
Now that I've covered a couple of
will.
my miscellaneous points
Might
about
react
Sister
to it.
Location, and I've laid the groundwork for
channel.
a couple of my bigger points later in the video, it's time to go through this entire game from start to finish. I'm going to talk about every single night, every single minigame, every single ending, and every single little thing that makes me think this is the worst of the Scott Cawthon FNAF games. I hope you're ready, because we're really only scratching the surface right now. By the
What
end
about
of this,
Fury's Rage?
you'll probably either want to punch me straight in the face, or you'll come to the dark side and fully understand why this game has not held
I'm
up
probably
very well
gonna
over the
punch
years.
him in the face.
At the end of the day, I don't really care.
It holds up very
as long
well.
As you hear me out and give me a chance to explain this whole mess. Let's get into it. Sister Location is probably the best YouTuber game out of the entire series. I say probably
What's up, Mark?
because it's hard to
I don't
beat
know if you
FNAF
could
1
see
in
him,
that
but
regard.
Mark's in the
just
corner.
looking at it from a basic level, it has a lot more moving parts to keep the viewer engaged.
It's his footage.
The gameplay changes each and every night, so the viewer doesn't have to keep watching the same loop over and over again. It is very, very story heavy, so you can watch it almost like a movie. And watching a YouTuber play it, you get to see their reactions to all the scripted events for the first time. I fully understand that a large portion of the fan base has never actually played any of the FNAF games, and even a smaller portion has probably ever even played Sister Location. So, just as a guess, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the people who love this game have never actually played it, and have just watched someone else play it. From that perspective, I can totally see why someone would love this game, or even have it as their favorite. Hell, if you're really only into FNAF for the story, this is the most story-heavy game of the original Scott Cawthon series, so it also has that going for it. But coming from the perspective of someone who has very little nostalgia for this game, has played it multiple times over, and has spent literal hours
I have very
and
little
hours
nostalgia,
thinking about it
and I
talking
love
to
it.
people about it for this video, I have to say, the more you think about it all, the more cracks begin to appear in the foundation of this game. The more stupid design choices start to rear their ugly head. The more insane parts of this game begin to look even more insane than they did before. Trust me, this video is not being made on a whim or with very little thought put into it. I have thought about Sister Location non-stop pretty much all month in preparation for this video.
I don't think you could
try and put any
convince
thoughts about
me.
Sister Location you already have set in stone aside, especially if you haven't played it before, and
I'll
allow me to
try.
explain everything. This isn't coming from a place of pure hatred. I'm going to be as fair as possible to this game, even if I dislike it a lot. I've already given props to the jump scares, and that isn't where my praise for Sister Location ends. Keep that in mind as we go forward here. But without further delay, let's dive straight into Night 1. The game starts off inside an elevator that's slowly going down to a facility that keeps animatronics stored away until they are rented out for parties or shows. This concept is actually really cool. and is a nice change of pace compared to the other games in the series. The environments in Sister Location look amazing.
Yeah.
That's something I have to give the game right off the bat. Because
Looks
almost
great.
every single area looks at
Even
least
with
good.
it being like
While the
30
more
FPS,
high-tech
it looks
sci-fi
great
aesthetic may
for
be
me.
a downside to some, it's genuinely one of the only positives to me. Almost
Probably
every
20.
room render looks great, with a few exceptions. And oftentimes the worst of the visuals simply comes down to the engine the game was made in, that being Click Team. If you've looked at FNAF gameplay for long enough, you'll probably notice a lot of the games have this cylinder-like effect that warps the backgrounds to feel more 3D. Sometimes this works great, but other times not so much. The elevator is actually quite a good example of it being put to good use, since the render is made with the cylinder warping in
It's a
mind.
huge
I'll bring up
elevator.
more
I
of the
just realized this
environments as we get
elevator's
there.
massive.
We were introduced to Hand Unit, who is essentially the
Also,
phone guy of this
circular
game. This
elevator?
is probably a hot take, but I really dislike Hand Unit. The writing for the character often leans too much into humor, which is fine in concept, but in execution it takes a lot away from the overall experience. Humor is a subjective aspect of any piece of media, so it's hard to definitively say that the game isn't funny. But at least to me, I didn't laugh out loud once, and I often felt taken out of the experience when Hand Unit made the same shitty, "lol, I messed up your keypad input" joke each night.
Using the keypad below,
Oh, give me the cash basket!
it seems you had some trouble.
The cash basket?
I see what you were trying to type, and I will auto-correct it for you. Thank you for selecting exotic butter.
Let's go! You're probably wondering why I'm eating.
Okay, so the thing is with the humor, I was talking about how Hand Unit and the TV are kind of funny and humorous. Those are the times where it's not supposed to be scary. You can kind of argue in the beginning, but there's barely any atmosphere. It's just supposed to get you ready for the night, what you're gonna do. So I feel that it's perfectly fine that it's funny because it's not affecting the gameplay greatly. And the TV sections were just a fun little bonus to get you a bit sidetracked. You might complain that in Belore Gallery, he's like, "It seems you are taking a long time," but it's not really that funny. If anything, it's terrifying. I knew it was coming, and I was still like, "Ah, god damn it. Be a bit quieter next time." I just didn't know when it was coming, so it's all completely fine.
Even bringing this up. Well, looking back at the previous FNAF games, a lot of them also had subtle jokes and humor, but they almost never took away from the experience and instead added to them in ways that felt very grounded.
It's
For
the
example,
same in
Phone Guy
Sister
in the first
Location.
two games has a lot of lines that are funny, but in an awkward, kind of realistic way. Phone Dude in FNAF 3 is also hilarious to me for a couple reasons. One,
I'll
having
argue
a surfer
that
dude bro be the phone guy,
Phone Dude
even
is
if it's
better.
only for a little bit, is just a funny concept on its own.
Phone Dude
But
is
it
better
also
than
feels extremely
Hand Unit
realistic
in
for
Sister
this
Location, I
late
could say
teens, early
that.
20s dude bro to be working at this crazy horror attraction. It's funny, it works, it never overstays its welcome, and it adds to the world in a way that doesn't feel out of place. The humor in the first 3 FNAF games was extremely subtle, realistic for the scenario at hand, and fit into the games perfectly. Hell, even small things like being able to honk Freddy's nose in the offices and "don't poop on the floor" being on the list of rules in FNAF 1 are kind of funny jokes that are more hidden away and add to that awkward, quirky sense of humor the first couple games have. I never felt taken out of the game world, and it all felt very natural. You want that when you're trying to build a horror atmosphere. Let me remind you that this is a horror game. Having this joke-cracking, robotic-ass voice talking to the whole game feels so out of place, and I am extremely glad that Baby begins to have a more prominent speaking role as the game goes on. So, what do I think happened here? Why does this game have a much more lighthearted and jokey script for the Phone Guy equivalent compared to what came before? Here's my theory. Scott had just finished writing for FNAF World, which we established earlier has a much more meta and funny script. This works because the game is supposed to be lighthearted. It's not building up a horror environment, it's building up a funny little RPG world. I think Scott saw the somewhat positive reception to the writing in FNAF World, and whether it be by accident or deliberate, decided to make the script for Hand Unit much more fun and humorous. The literal definitive proof for this is that when you get all 3 stars in the game and go back to the extras menu, there's a PNG of the exotic butters you get after completing your week at work. When you click on it, a soundbite of Hand Unit saying, "Exotic Butters," plays. Here now.
Yeah, I think so.
Unrated.
Exotic
Where's
butters.
his eyebrow?
Exotic butters. Exotic
Yeah.
exotic.
You may be thinking, oh, of course Scott would do that. Exotic Butters is a meme. Well,
What's up, guys? This is KFC's new Buffalo Ranch. It's spicy.
It's a meme because of that.
well, here's the thing. This wasn't added in an update or added in a patch after the fact. This has been here since the launch version of the game.
That's the
Scott
reason
thought
it's a
people would
meme.
find this joke so funny that he had to put a button for it in the extras menu. Which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that, but it proves that he thought the script for Hand Unit was funny. Once again, a completely subjective aspect of the game, but I had to talk about it. Outside of Hand Unit, however, the writing and voice cast for Sister Location is actually quite good, and is one of the best aspects about it. So I don't think I'm
The voice
trashing
acting's
all of the writing.
awesome.
All I'm saying is, I think Hand Unit and its shenanigans are not very funny, and kind of feel out of place in this
Tom
game without
Hardy is
getting jump
good,
scared
funny,
by
and
killer
scary,
robots
and goofy.
getting scooped
It's
alive
crazy.
and used as a skin suit. Oops, spoilers, by the way, spoilers for Sister Location in this video. Nothing really happens on the first night of Sister Location, which is fair for a couple reasons. First of all, this is a completely new style of gameplay compared to the other games in the series.
It's supposed to introduce you, kind of like FNAF 3.
No real stakes allows the player to get used to everything. Another thing,
Yeah.
FNAF 3 also did the same thing, where the first night has no real threat and is just for world building. So hey, whatever, that's fine. As long as the following 4 nights are jam-packed.
The thing is, with Sister Location, it's actually really good because you play the first night, it's completely fine except for some subtle vent noises, and the zapping is kind of like, ew, why are we doing this? But it just kind of sets the tone for what you think the game's going to be. This is going to be my gameplay loop for the game. But then you realize that not only are you moving around, but it's not a FNAF game. It's not this daily chores thing. It acts like it's the same thing, but then the power cuts out, and it starts the best night of the game other than the private room. It's just so good. It sets the tone. And then night 3, it's the worst, in my opinion. Yes, night 4 is better, because at least it's difficult, and the gameplay is nice. I just don't like Bon Bon and Funtime Foxy, but still, it's different, and I like how you're supposed to die to Funtime Foxy at the end. When you don't see it, it's good. It like night 1 sets the tone for what you think it's gonna be, but it's not. It's the complete opposite of foreshadowing. I like it.
Just for world building. So hey, whatever, that's fine. As long as the following 4 nights are jam-packed with content to make up for it,
Night 2 is.
There's no issue here. This night consists of clicking on light and electric shock buttons to make the animatronics revert to a working state. And
Great
crawling through a
render,
couple vents.
great animation.
That's about it. The night ends with the dreaded shaky vent that I talked about earlier, which would have served as a place to put a small, easy minigame to get the player used to that part of the gameplay, but whatever. I already talked about that for long enough. Every night in this game, I'm going to tally how much gameplay is accomplished. The gameplay in Sister Location is split up into 4 varieties. First, we have the button-clicking gameplay. This is the mind-numbing, boring stuff you have to do almost every night of the game. Clicking on the buttons for the animatronics, going through vents, yada yada. The next gameplay style is the story-focused minigames. These are minigames that barely count as games and are more just for story reasons. They barely have any actual gameplay to them, and are the worst offenders on repeat playthroughs. Next up, we have the semi-story focused minigames. These include minigames that are typically about going from point A to point B, while not getting caught. They're there to flow the story together, but they also feature actual gameplay. Finally, we have the actual minigames. These are actual minigames with full mechanics that could be separated from the story and still work on their own. These are typically the most fun parts of the entire game. Okay, great. With that out of the way, let's
Not
tally
Bon
up
Bon.
my
Bon Bon is
We
not
had a
fun.
bunch of button clicking, and that's it. This style essentially doesn't count as gameplay. So let's just say that Night 1 of Sister Location has no gameplay. This is A-okay. Like I said, maybe a semi-story focused minigame
It has
event
gameplay,
would have been
because
cool,
it's completely
but
new.
it's the first night, so I can't really get too heated over it. Almost every night in Sister Location ends with the player, who is Michael Afton by the way, I should probably rip that band-aid off, going home to watch a TV show about Vlad and Clara. A couple consisting
Rip
of
that
a vampire
bandit
and
off?
human
I
arguing
just
over
rip
forbidden
that bandit off. I'm not the English teacher, but like, goddamn.
actually belongs to Vlad. You may think because of
that
my humor
mask
earlier,
off.
I would be all angry about this. But actually, I think this is perfectly fine. Funny, even. These moments in the game are the downtime.
Okay, no, I just want to check on OBS. Is everything fine? I've been recording for 43 minutes. Everything is A-okay. That's good.
Between the horror sections. The tension being built up there is completely irrelevant here. And I think these are actually
everything's
really
fine.
great additions to the game. You can even munch away on some popcorn while watching, which
Yeah.
is a fantastic addition. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna bring these up again, just thought I should mention my opinion on them here. Night 2 opens up with Hand Unit becoming a more interesting character. You might see it walking around. I'm gonna play these vintage audio training tapes. Oh, get me out of this fucking place. There's so many Shut the fuck
This guy's
ever.
better than Andy Field, though.
This guy is better than Andy Field, unless this is Andy Field doing a voice.
It's not. That's for the guy.
A dead body was found in this vent once. Okay, so not that funny, but
It's a story. Jokes aside, I actually do think an angsty teen, maybe dialed back a bit, would have been a better companion for this game. Story-wise, I guess it wouldn't make that much sense. But like I established earlier, you can always tweak a story to make things work, so that's not much of an excuse.
Yeah.
That aside,
Maybe,
this is the first
but
real night in
it's
the game
Hand
to
Unit,
include
come on.
actual gameplay.
I love
Not
Hand
only
Unit,
that,
and
this is
Tutorial
the
Unit,
only night in
and
the
Dread
entire
Unit, and all
game
that.
to feature all 4 of the gameplay styles Sister Location has to offer on a single run. Not only that, but this is the best night in the entire game.
Other
After
than the
this,
private
it's
room.
all downhill. The first gameplay segment of the night is about you protecting yourself from the biddy babs under a desk, using a piece of metal to protect yourself. Here's an example of the cylinder warping looking really ugly. In fact, a lot of things here make no sense. Why are the holes in this piece of metal so perfectly smooth? Scott loves to model things with this Minecraft pixel art looking ass withering all the time. So the one time that would have actually worked.
Oh, I can't skip this one. Well, guys, how was the video so far? I hope the reaction's good. Yeah, I hope you're doing well in this deck.
Worked, he opts to make this
Or evening.
worn down piece of metal look more like a gray
Or
block
3
of
a.m.
cheese.
at night.
This is a story-based minigame, and actually isn't much of a game at all. Baby tells you to hide under here to protect yourself after Hand Unit shuts down, but all you actually have to do is click down and move your mouse to stop the biddy babs from moving the metal away from you. It's a pretty nothing section, and it's
If I'm gonna
over
be
before it
honest,
even
the thing that made it fun revisiting it was that I was recording. So I was expressing my feelings. I don't know how to explain it, but when I'm recording, it's not like I'm a completely different person, but I just feel more open, and that since I have to be loud to be somewhat entertaining, I just think I kind of get away from everything else, and it's really fun to record. That's why today is probably a triple upload, which is quite crazy. So that probably was a big chunk of why this game was fun to revisit, because I did all these funny emotions, and it's like, I don't know, 2-year nostalgia in here. I don't know. But like, if I was just revisiting it normally, I would expect that it wouldn't be that fun. Wouldn't be 0 out of 10, probably 4. But revisiting it while recording, it was like a 6 or 7. I enjoyed it.
feels like it starts. For the first actual gameplay section of Sister Location, not a great first impression.
This is so bad.
It's tense building. The first time.
Oh my god, that was a close one. It's not like the fucking door goes the exact same length every single time you play this game and it never changes. Okay, bye. Hand Unit comes back online and tells us to rush through Ballora Gallery to make it to the breaker room. However, before he comes back, Baby tells the player not to listen to him and to instead take your sweet ass time getting through the gallery. This is the start of Baby manipulating the player into a false sense of security. She helps out Michael Afton to try to win him over slowly and surely throughout the game. Next up is the Ballora Gallery minigame, which is the first minigame in Sister Location
I love
that has
this.
some actual gameplay behind
I
it.
love
The controls
this.
from the vent section are carried over here as you need to crawl from one
Absolutely
side of the room
love
to
it.
the other. The room is
Dusk
pitch
was
black, except for a door that has lights above it at
5.
the end of the room. If you hear Ballora's music
7.
get too loud, stop in place and wait for it to
It's
die down.
creepy.
While no music is playing, you can
Especially
sprint
with
for
the 3D
door.
sound.
Extremely simple game that is an alright challenge. Here's my biggest issue with it, however. It's super simple when it really shouldn't be. What I'm talking about is this scripted section of the minigame where Ballora spins across the screen to the other side. When this happens, you have to stop and wait for her to leave. This is a cool section until you realize the way it's scripted makes it happen at the exact same point every single time you play it. This is just
You keep talking about the
insanely
scripted events.
Ballora spinning across the screen
When
should
that's
not be a
clearly the
scripted element.
point! of the game. Scripted, story-based. It's the point of the game. You could say the same thing for Poppy Playtime. It's scripted. That's the point. It was supposed to be tense building the very first time.
Should be an actual mechanic in the minigame. That's what FNAF's gameplay is all about to me. Throwing a bunch of threats at the player and having them deal with it. Have it so you have to listen to her music to make sure it's not too loud, but also have to watch out in case Ballora spins in front of you. That adds both an audio and visual aspect to the minigame, and that simple change alone adds so much more to it. Too many things in this game are scripted segments when they should have 100% been actual gameplay mechanics. Not only would this have made repeat playthroughs way more interesting, it would just make each section of the game that much more fun to go through.
What you gotta understand is the goal, Scott was trying to make a more story-heavy game. So, he could have just made another FNAF game, except with different things like New Nights at Freddy's and The Joy of Creation. But he wanted this. Like, how is he gonna make an entire thing out of Ballora Gallery, where you're on the floor, slowly crawling, listening for music? What could you add to that? I just don't get it.
It just hurts me every single time I play the Ballora minigame.
Among Us, help me. Among Us, help me.
Every single time you have to sit there and wait for her to leave at the exact same spot when that idea would have been perfect as an addition to the actual minigame mechanics. This isn't like a thing where when you're done either. Even if you complete this minigame and get to the next one, if you die there, you're sent all the way back to Ballora Gallery. So this isn't even a thing where it just makes repeat playthroughs less interesting, it also makes repeat attempts on a single playthrough less interesting. I would have much preferred more fleshed out minigames with proper checkpoints after each one, rather than what we got, being a bunch of half-baked minigames that you need to complete in a row without dying, or else you're sent all the way back to the last insanely brutal checkpoint. This is where scripted events
made
like
a
this,
high-quality game,
but
made the gameplay not that good. It looks great. Sound?
Things like
great.
this during minigames
Voice acting?
makes them lose
great.
their punch fast. When
he wasn't really
actual
focusing on the gameplay that much, I would expect.
Tries and just
if he was,
in general.
then I would
After
admit he
going
didn't
through
do
the
that
gallery,
good of a
you're
job
greeted
for
with
most
one
of the
best
sections.
minigames in Sister Location. That being the Funtime Freddy Breaker.
I love this section, like the Ballora Gallery.
Flip up FNAF camera style.
Except this is
a bunch
like
of systems that need to be restarted. Each system has a load time to restart them that starts at 0% until it's completed at 100%. You have to hold down each system to make them reach 100%. However, Funtime Freddy is active in the same room as you. He'll make attempts to
what
get
you
close
and
to you
Isaac keep
when
liking
restarting
about
each of the systems.
this
So every once in a
section,
while,
private
you
room,
need to push
it's
down the
randomly
monitor
generated,
and play an audio
which
cue
makes
to
it
trick them
tense
into
every
going back to
time.
the starting point.
That's
Restart
what
each and every
you guys
system
keep
to finish
complaining
the
about.
minigame.
It's too
In
scripted.
concept, I
But
like this minigame a
I
lot.
see that
It
as
has
the
a very
point. So
classic-
if I look at it from a standpoint of scripted events, then it's perfectly fine. If it was made to be a normal game, but fail at the gameplay, I wouldn't look at it that way. But since Scott was clearly in the mindset of making a story-based game, where you do different things like everything and every night except for the check the goddamn windows, see if they're good, which is just kind of like a bonus or something, I don't know. If I were to look at it as a normal game, like a normal FNAF game, just not like A or B tier. But when I'm looking at it like a scripted game, it does a great job, in my opinion. Except for Night 3. I don't like Night 3.
FNAF feel to it, since you have to balance an office section.
It's a hot take
and
within a
camera
hot take. I don't
section
like
to
Night
survive
3.
the night. However, as cool as it is, I think it might be too simple. The
Yeah.
audio cues can kind of just be spammed whenever you can use them. So there really isn't any skill on that.
Also,
front.
the danger
It
level
kinda
is
just boils
garbage.
down to increase system to 50%, close monitor, spam audio until it's safe, go back to the monitor, rinse, repeat. I think a pretty simple change here would be to have two different sets of audio cues depending on what side of the screen Funtime Freddy is on. This idea is heavily inspired by his appearance in this game's Custom Night mode, where depending on the side he's on, you need to close different doors to stop him. So in my hypothetical
And you have to play
improvement,
two
if
different
Funtime
sound
Freddy was
cues?
on the left side, you would play audio using the A key. And if he was on the right side, you'd play audio using the D key. That way you have to put a little more thought into what you're doing in the office sections of this minigame. Either way, this is still one of my favorite minigames here, but I think some things could be tweaked a bit to make it a little better. I should also say that visually, This part of the game looks fantastic. All the different Funtime
The whole
Freddy
game
renders
looks
look great.
awesome.
And the area itself has a lot of detail.
I like
Once
probably
again,
the whole
in
game.
my ideal Sister Location world, each minigame is more interesting and fleshed out, but has a check.
So he's really leading into the gameplay part, which is what FNAF is all about. But
Location world,
this game
each
is
minigame
different. It's
is
still
more
different. It was
interesting and
meant to be
fleshed out,
different.
but has a checkpoint at the end of them to make up for the more complex mechanics. The way the game is currently set up, sure, having to redo multiple minigames if you die does add a lot of
I know
stress
this won't
and
happen,
tension
but
to
I
the game.
need to have an
However,
interview
in a
with this
very
guy
artificial way that makes it kind of
about
feel
why
unfair.
he
This isn't, oh,
dislikes
I'm so
this game
scared. I gotta get through this
that
scary
much.
section again. I'm so tense. This is, oh, I'm so annoyed. I gotta watch Ballora spin around in front of me for the 14th time. Not to say I died 14 times here, by the way. I only died once because I'm a gamer. Anyway.
Because
after
it's
you
your
finish
second
up in the
time
break
playing
room,
it.
You can run through Ballora Gallery again
I didn't die at
without
all.
having anything to worry about. And that is where the night ends.
until Bonbon.
That was the best night in the entire game. A night where I complained about every single minigame, at least to some extent, and went on a long-ass rant about scripted events in short minigames. This is going to be a long video. However, I will give props to this night for having a lot of gameplay. Even if one of the 3 sections barely counts, and for having a decent
It's the best
variety
night,
as well on the
other than
gameplay
Private Room.
palette.
Private
We have
Room
our
is
standard button
amazing.
clicking gameplay that almost every night
Story-wise,
features.
gameplay-wise,
A story-focused minigame in the form of the
sound-wise,
Goodie Bab survival
visual-wise,
section,
it's
a
just
semi-story-focused
awesome.
minigame with the Ballora Gallery, and an actual minigame with the Breaker Room. So far, so good when it comes to content. Hey, if each night keeps this pace up, Sister Location might not actually be that bad. Sure, maybe the quality of each minigame won't be amazing, but at least the content's gonna be there, right? Right? Night 3, baby. It starts off the same way
Don't
the
like
previous
it.
nights
Don't like
did,
Night 3.
with you clicking on a bunch of buttons,
Just
seeing
don't
weird
like
stuff
Funtime
happen,
Foxy and
until
the
you're given a
Bonbon
task
section.
for the night by hand unit.
Everything
Night
else
3
is
has you
fine.
going through Funtime Auditorium to
Can I
get
show
to
the
Parts
circus
and
baby
Service, to
Easter
do a
egg?
routine checkup on Funtime
Nice.
Freddy. Having Funtime Freddy be the end goal of the night again is a little weird, but it's not really that big of a deal. Just kinda odd. This night does something a little different, however. When you're finally able to progress to Funtime Auditorium, you're given a split pathway. You can either listen to Hand Unit and do the task at hand, or disobey him and go forward to Circus Gallery.
Yeah.
On paper, this is a great idea. This entire location is set up in a way where you'd think you'd be given a lot more options on where to go, and this appears to finally be utilizing that. However, all going this way does is give you an exclusive bit of Circus Baby dialogue that's important for something else later in the game. Nothing changes if you go to this room.
Alright, hold on a minute. I'll see you in... No, I'm back. Let's continue with this
And
damn
after you
review.
finish up here, you just continue the night like nothing happened. The real kicker, not counting entirely different endings, this is the only optional path in the entire game. You're never allowed to explore the location for secrets or take alternate paths that lead to different endings. The entire game is pretty much on
private
rails.
room.
It's really disappointing too, because having the game set up in a more task-based way could really fix a lot of its
It's
issues.
a roller coaster.
Imagine that instead of a set path for each night,
It's the point.
you have
It's a
time limit
roller
of, let's say,
coaster ride.
15 minutes and a series of tasks to
Like
do
you
during the
said.
night. You can do these tasks
Well, no,
in any order.
it's a different
as long
analogy.
As you finish them all within set time limit. That way, you can explore the entire map in any way you please, and everyone's playthroughs could be a little different. I think that would really sell the whole being a handyman thing a lot better than how the game currently presents it. Anyway,
I
all
think
I'm
the
really
roller
saying
coaster
here is that I
mechanic
wish there
is
was more
completely
exploration
fine.
in this game, and I wish there was more alternate pathways that actually led to more interesting things. After you finish hearing what Circus Baby has to say, you're able to go through the Funtime Auditorium. This minigame is pretty similar to the Ballora Gallery one, but instead of being based on audio, it's based on knowing your surroundings.
Which I
Your
don't
goal here is
like.
to get from
It's
one end of the
annoying.
room to the other,
It could
just
take
like
forever
Ballora
for him to
Gallery,
leave.
Except this time you're provided with a flash beacon that creates a small flash of light
Like,
in the
this is
room
the
to
only
check
part
your
where I have
surroundings.
heavy criticism
Occasionally you
at.
flash your beacon,
I do
Funtime
not
Foxy
like
will be
this
standing
section.
there. When
It
this
is just
happens,
not
You just
fun.
have to wait in place and flash the light again to make sure they're gone. I know
Even the
people
Funtime
often have
Freddy
trouble with
section.
this one.
It's fine
not
until
explained super
Bonbon.
well
It's
in
just
game.
annoying.
But the best way to do it is to listen
He's
to the
annoying.
quiet noise that plays after you flash the beacon. A good rule of thumb here.
That's
is to
why I'm
call all
angry
the
that
noises
at some
playing
point in the video, in the posture section, he just completely surpasses it. Like, it's not like, look at that. Why is he so close?
Stop when the noise stops. At that point, flash the light again to check, rinse and repeat until you make it to parts and service. This minigame is fine. I
No.
don't actually know if I like this game more or less than Ballora Gallery.
Less.
It can get pretty tense at times.
Much
I will
less.
Give it that. You're
tense,
probably
but
thinking to
it's
yourself,
not fun.
Okay, so the first minigame is pretty simple. Surely the next minigame in this night will step things up a bit. This is the only minigame on night 3. I am completely serious. The parts and service section is literally just clicking a bunch of buttons on Freddy, where messing up will result in a jump scare. The actual quote-unquote mini-game part of this is when Bon Bon jumps off Freddy's arm, and you have to click on the button on its body to finish the section. The quote-unquote mini-game here goes either one of two ways. Either you complete...
So many ads. I guess it's a long video, but still. Goddamn.
completely struggle to figure out how to bait Bon Bon to come out, or, you know, the surefire strategy to hit his button every single time. In that case, this entire section is literally just clicking buttons. You're not gonna go anywhere, right? You with your like warping ear, you're not gonna like leave me, right?
You better freaking not.
Great
Oh!
work.
You know this
You will
strategy?
now be
Get that every
required to
time.
remove
No, how do you do it
the
again?
power module from the
Okay,
Bonnie
leave
hand
this.
socket.
Look at his center.
Press the
Okay.
large black button
Go to the
beneath
left
Bonnie's bow
corner.
tie to release the power module.
Like all the way to the screen.
Okay,
Then go right. All the way to the right.
just like straight up.
All the way to the right.
Okay.
All the way to the right. Now slowly drift to his left shoulder. Or, sorry, his right shoulder. Not the side of your arm. Put it closer. Or slower. I think he'll be there. Yep.
I cannot believe it.
That's so fucking.
If that was Dags, how did he figure that out? And why didn't he inform me? Man, this part is just not fun.
That's so fucking dumb.
Every time.
Does that really work every time?
Tasks for the night.
What? That's so dumb. In the other case, you have to replay the Funtime Foxy section over and over and over again just to get another shot at trying to click the button again.
It's
and
annoying.
that's it. That's night 3. Genuinely, probably the worst night in the entire game when it
Good.
comes to content. You exit parts and
When it comes to
service,
everything,
get
it's
jumped
not
by Foxy,
good.
and are
The only good
transitioned-
part is the jump scares and Circus Baby. And then handing in the ending. But like the actual night is just not
Right to
fun.
night 4. So remember when I said night
Visually
1
it's good.
having no content
Sound-wise
could
it's
easily
good,
be made up for,
but it's
if
not
the other nights
fun.
were stacked with content? That's pretty much completely out the window now. For the sake of putting this all on the table right now, let me break down the rest of the gameplay this game has. Night 4 is one 3-minute minigame that is insanely difficult if you don't know what you're doing. And even if you do know what you're doing, it still serves as an insane difficulty spike in this game with pretty easy challenges thus
Yeah.
far. Night 5
Which,
pretty much has no gameplay
at least it has a
whatsoever on
challenge.
normal run. There's an always
And Night
fun
5 I feel
clicking
like is a
button section.
bit too empty. There is no minigame here. Like I guess the keypad, but the keypad is okay. Like Night 5, I just feel like is like the closure. There is nothing to see here except for the ending. Which the ending is a surprise the first time. So the first time, not that
In
bad.
Circus Baby, a part where you follow
Especially
Baby's
when you
movement instructions, and that's
bring up the
it.
private room,
Putting this
though.
all into perspective, this game features a minigame where you do nothing but click on a metal slab, 2 minigames where you crawl through long hallways and wait a lot, a minigame that makes everyone who plays it want to tear their own teeth out, and trust me, we will get to it shortly, one that has a surefire way to beat it every time and barely counts as an actual minigame, and one single minigame that I would consider very good. Do you see why I dislike this game?
No.
We are now about to cover Night 4
Well, I could
of
see
5,
it, but the-
and there is only one actual
I
minigame
have
left.
defensive
Night 5 has
things to say about all of
nothing
them.
on a normal playthrough that I would classify as an actual minigame or any kind of real gameplay, to be honest. It's pretty much just an extended ending cutscene. And no, I'm not forgetting Enter Night. We will be going over all that. But right now, I'm just trying to paint a picture of how little content Sister Location has on a normal playthrough that would actually qualify as a minigame or game of some kind. Here's another point. If each of these minigames was really good, I would absolutely have no issues here. It's not the amount of content that's the issue. It's what you're doing with said content that really matters. I have
For the last time, it was supposed to just be a story game. And he was not, I repeat, not focusing on the gameplay as much as he did with the other games, especially 1 and 2, because that's literally all it is. 1 is literally gameplay and phone. That is it. There's nothing else. FNAF 2, there's that, and then some mini games after each night, and then some secret mini games. That's literally, other than that, it's just gameplay. 3 and 4 is a good mix of the two. This is a complete story, flips it on its head. So he was not focusing on the gameplay aspect as much as the script. He was focusing, like, it was probably 70-30 or 60-40, the story way, because there's a lot of story, a lot of stuff happening. It's supposed to be tense, which, not the second time playing. It is still scary, though. My title is this game is scarier than I remember it being, especially with the loud headphones. So, that's the point. It was supposed to be story heavy. I'm not going to pause and say that anymore.
I've played tons
I
of
hope
short games
you guys
that were fun
understand.
from start to finish.
It's
and I have
story
high praise for.
based.
And if every single minigame in Sister Location was an absolute banger,
Comment down below what you think
praises
about
right
my
now.
points,
With the
and if it's a
reality
hot
of the
take, or
situation
if you have your
is,
own hot take about it.
Most of these minigames are either
I'd love to
lacking
hear
in
it.
something or downright suck ass. What you're really left with here when you strip all the minigames away is an interactive visual novel, which is fine if you're into that.
Yeah.
But personally, that's not why I play Five Nights at Freddy's games.
I can get
and that's
that.
also not what I expect
Fine,
when I'm playing a
I
Five
can
Nights
get
at
that.
Freddy's game.
I can get
Love 'em
that.
or hate 'em, most of the
Again, it's the
4 games
perspective.
have
If you're gonna look at
extremely
it
solid
like a story
mechanics that
game,
can hook
like a
player
different
early
FNAF game,
and keep them going
it
for all
does
5
its job.
nights. If
If
I wasn't
you look at
making
it like a
video on this
FNAF game,
I would
then
have
no.
100% dropped it at night 4. Speaking of, video games need to have difficulty curves. I know, right? What a hot take. Ooh, really coming in there. Ooh. If a game is too easy the entire way through, a player might just get bored and stop playing at some point. If a game is too hard, a player might just give up straight away from the unfair challenge. You really need to find that sweet spot. Whereas the player improves at the game, so will the game increase in difficulty.
That's what FNAF
when it
1
comes
did
to
well.
The regular FNAF games,
And I
this is
guess
done
4, but
fairly
not really.
effortlessly. Every character has an AI level, and as you finish nights, those levels increase. On top of that, new threats
FNAF
are
2
added
is
to
just hard.
challenge the
FNAF 3
player
is just
on
easy.
top of the
FNAF 4 is
existing
just
knowledge
unfair.
they've gained from
FNAF 1
previous
does that
nights.
well.
Sister Location, on the other hand, would be a very hard game to make a good difficulty curve for. Because each night is so different, the player isn't really learning anything from minigame to minigame that they could actually use going forward. The closest thing to that here would be the knowledge from Ballora Gallery kind of carrying over to Funtime Auditorium. So, I do indeed understand that making a super fair and balanced difficulty
You don't
curve
need
for a
that.
game like this
I
would be a
understand that you
challenge.
expect
But,
gameplay
oh my
from a
God,
FNAF game,
Did Night 4
but-
just drop the ball completely? The intention here was definitely to make this
I think
night
it's
tough
a
as nails.
big spike, but at least it has a
Jesus, nothing
challenge.
could have truly prepared the player for this. The night picks up right after the events of Night 3.
At least it has
Since
a
Michael
challenge.
Ashton got jump scared by Funtime Foxy instead of properly finishing his shift, he finds himself trapped in a springlock suit.
Like, for the last time, I can get why you expect gameplay from a FNAF game and not story. But if you look at it from a different perspective, that can't affect the game. They can't really affect the game
Suit in a dark room.
if you
Maybe his
take it
dialogue
from
kind of
a
gets
different
aggressive here,
perspective.
which is an odd tonal shift when you consider that only one night after this.
'Cause if you do
Vivi is
gameplay,
once again playing
B tier,
nice and
maybe
trying
A.
to help you. This being her
Because of the
mask-off
private room
moment
and
could have
custom
worked,
night.
but it really goes nowhere and feels out of place to happen here. Baby blabbers on a bit, Ballora fucking dies, and finally the night truly begins. Like I mentioned earlier, this night is literally just one minigame and nothing else. On each side of the springlock suit, you can see multiple different springlocks. These springlocks are constantly winding down, and you have to click your mouse over each of the springlocks to wind them back up. If a springlock fully winds down, it's game over, and you have to try again. However, on top of that, mini-arenas will crawl up the side of the mask. If a mini-arena fully climbs the mask, you get jump scared. The only way to stop them is to shake back and forth to make them fall off the mask. Here's the catch though. Every time you shake, the springlocks become more loose and wind down even further. So the goal here is to make sure you time your shakes at all the right moments to minimize the amount of shakes you have to do total during the entire minigame. This challenge lasts 3 full minutes and is a brutal difficulty spike in this game full of somewhat easy minigames and challenges up until this point. It really doesn't start off that bad. Winding down all the springlocks isn't much of an issue at the start, and you're able to manage everything fairly easily. However, around 2 minutes in, you'll find yourself struggling to keep the locks in check and panicking over making the smallest of mistakes. This makes it so the challenge never really gets that hard until it's around a minute away from being over. So doing multiple attempts over and over, knowing that you're so close every time, can be a little demotivating. Here's my
I find it very motivating, like it's Cuphead. You're always like, I'm so close, and I just can't beat it. So then you keep trying to beat it, and then at some point you beat it, and you're like, yeah, let's go, I beat it.
thing with Night 4. If this minigame
Thankfully,
was
we're
fun,
almost done. Kind
I
of.
would
We
have
have
no
like
issues with it, really. Sure, I'd still complain about the
my
difficulty
God, we
feeling
have,
out of place for this part of the game.
15
but if it
minutes
was
left.
fun, I would
or
definitely
something.
be able to look past that. However, this minigame just isn't fun. It really just boils down to shaking when a mini arena is as high as it can get.
It's not fun,
fast,
but the challenge
and
is
praying
there.
to God you're able to keep the
Which
spring
I
lock in
respect.
check. It doesn't feel satisfying to replay over and over again, and it's a low point in the game even for people who like Sister Location as well. One of my biggest issues with this night is actually the lack of visual feedback given to the player. In this minigame, you have two distinct ways of losing. You can either let a mini arena fully crawl up the mask, or have a spring lock fully wind down. However, regardless of how you die, you still lose the same way every time. It doesn't matter which way you lose. You will always be jump scared by a mini arena. For a mini game that is this hard and even had to be patched to make it easier only days after launch, this is genuinely a huge oversight. It's important in a minigame like this to know 100% of the time how you lost. That way, you can use that information to properly try new strategies.
If you think about it, the reason why it does that, it gets loose, the faceplate opens up more. Enough for the mini arena to crawl in there and just nyah. Like it gets in there, making it looser. And you wiggling makes it looser. So I want to ask you this, what jump scare would it be if it wasn't the mini arena? Like a pass out thing? Or maybe just a different animation. A different animation, like, maybe, but it makes sense if you just think about it in a different way.
The next time you attempt it. Would it really
Like, if you just think about it in a different way,
spring
it
lock
makes
mask
sense.
Close shut and a blood effect cover the screen if you die because of a spring lock? You can't even say this isn't a realistic expectation when both of these assets are already in the game.
You know what, yeah, it's probably the spring lock. I just thought about that. Yeah, it's probably a spring lock. But it can be that it's just becoming loose enough for the mini arena to... I don't know.
So just reverse the damn thing, speed it up a bit, add a slight bump or shake effect for impact, and you have your closing animation. Even this blood splatter I speak of is literally in the game when you get scooped at the end of it. The assets were literally already there for this to work, but instead, we're left with looking at mini arenas for potentially hours of attempts depending on how much you struggle with this minigame. I was able to finish this minigame in about half an hour, but I was already getting bored
Also,
of it by the
probably
20
like
minute
40,
mark.
50 minutes.
The gameplay here is not engaging enough for me to actively want to deal with the bullshit for very long. Also, something I see almost nobody talk about is the swarm of mini arenas that crawl into the suits during this minigame. While
It makes
a
you think it's a
visual,
threat.
It's an insanely poor idea to put something like this here. Someone going in blind will realistically think this is some kind of mechanic at first and probably lose a few times trying to shake them away. Hey, maybe if this was linked to some kind of mechanic and the whole thing was rebalanced a bit, it would be a lot more fun. Did it! Did it! Did it! Did it! Never a fucking day in my life will I play that, ever. Ever. Literally ever. After you finish the Springlock minigame, the night ends and Michael Afton gets to go home once again. And that's the entire night. I guess the implication here was that since this night is so hard, and the player will probably spend so long on it, that there was no need to add any extra content to it. Which I mean, fair I guess? But all it ends up doing is making this one of the weakest nights in the entire game.
At least it's
But now I ask
difficult,
you,
man.
What's worse? A night with one minigame that's insane.
You worked hard. Something.
Insanely hard for some reason, or a night with pretty much zero content. One quick elevator ride and a haha funny exotic butters joke later, and we finally made it to the last night of Sister Location.
At least there's the
This
hanged
night
man.
tasks you with going back through Funtime Auditorium
The hung man.
to reach parts and service again. However, on your way through the auditorium, there's nothing that can actually jump scare you. That's right, here you're able to run through the room without actually doing a minigame. Here's my issue with that though. Yes, I understand why there's nothing here anymore from a story standpoint. All the animatronics are currently a pile of spaghetti holding a clown mask. But would this not have been the perfect moment in the game to finally reach back to some of those FNAF core gameplay roots? Here's what I mean. On night 2, you go through Ballora Gallery. On night 3, you have to go through Funtime Auditorium. Both of these sections involve crawling through a dark room and trying to reach the other side. So, wouldn't it have been really cool if now on night 5, both of these mechanics were combined to serve as one final challenge that you would actually have practiced for already thanks to the previous crawling minigames. Just like in previous FNAF games, where each night things are added and difficulty is raised, this would serve as a perfect point in Sister Location to draw inspiration from those older titles to make an engaging and fun part of the game. It's literally the final night. Wouldn't a final, harder crawling challenge that tests your knowledge be literally perfect here? But no, because of this game's absurd checkpoint system, Scott decided to make this area empty because if you die at any point during night 5, you have to go all the way back here and crawl through Funtime Auditorium again. Anyway, when you make it
I have 2 words. I'm about to end this man's whole career, okay? Oh, yeah. Sorry, but I'm about to end your entire career in 2 words. Private room.
Parts and service. Baby makes you do a couple things similar to the Funtime Freddy parts and service section. Clicking on a few buttons, inputting a code, and sending her away on a conveyor belt. That's all I'll say about this section for now, but we'll come back to it a bit later. Once Baby is successfully moved on the conveyor belt, she instructs you to go back into the auditorium and follow some movement instructions. If you mess up any of the movement instructions, Maskless Ennard will jump scare you. Successfully follow Baby's instructions, and you're greeted with the scooping room. You then proceed to get scooped of all your insides and worn like a skin suit by Ennard. The end. While this ending cutscene is very cool, the buildup of Night 5 is so non-existent that it leaves me with a feeling of, that's it? No big final minigame or anything at all, really? Just a bit of button clicking and crawling in the dark? However, I know you're just all on the edge of your seats right now wondering, what about Ennard Night? Alright, so here's the deal, okay? Night 5 not having any actual minigame is kind of a lie. On a normal playthrough, there isn't anything. However, if you're able to unlock the secret ending, there is a full classic FNAF style minigame waiting for you to beat.
And it's amazing.
Which is insanely cool as a concept. Sure, it would have hit harder if the rest of the game was good, but just the fact it's there is at least something to look forward to. So, you're probably wondering, how do you unlock this secret ending? Okay, so occasionally when you game over in Sister Location, instead of the normal game over screen, you're met with a pixelated minigame, where you play a circus baby and give cupcakes to children. You're given a pretty strict time limit here, and have to feed the kids the cupcakes in a certain order to feed them all. Once every kid is fed, an ice cream cone will be waiting at the end of the map. You have to take this ice cream cone all the way back to the start of the map to truly beat the minigame. On paper, the idea is okay. In execution, this sucks. This sucks so bad. Let me explain. This minigame is hard as hell to master if you're going into the game blind. You need to do a lot of specific things to complete
it was not that hard
and the only real
to me.
hint you have is that extra bit of baby dialogue from earlier in the game. Once you figure out how to do it all, it becomes second nature.
I cannot imagine the guy that first figured this out. This is... Okay, is it more absurd than Stage 01 in FNAF 3? Maybe. But probably not. But still, the guy that was like, I know how to beat this minigame. I gotta applaud them. Like, it's cool. Like, the Easter egg is cool, but it's ridiculous to figure out. But if you're just using YouTube, it's not that bad. It's also not that hard to master.
But learning how to do this whole thing perfectly can take a while. Clearly, Scott
maybe the first time it could take like
having the player need
10
a
tries,
chance
but
game over minigame for an opportunity to try and beat the minigame is kind of an insane task. His solution to this? Have a secret 8-bit baby hidden away on the extras menu that lets you play the minigame as many times as you want. This then brings up the question, what in the world was the point of this being a death minigame at all? Any sane person would never do this during the main story playing for the first time. So it really just boils down to, hey, do you want the secret ending? Play this minigame on the extras menu until you beat it. This makes it feel so disconnected from the rest of the game in a really weird way, when there were clearly better ways to unlock a secret ending just sitting all over the rooms in Sister Location.
Okay, so I could see where you're going, but like it's kind of like, hey, here's a fun little mini game that you can do, and if you get to the goal, yay, you did it. But then it's like, go to the extras menu, there is more to this mini game. It's clear because if it's in the extras menu and it's hidden away, it's probably special. So once you do beat it, you realize you get a second star. You're like, So, yeah, it's just kind of like an oversight until the extras menu, kind of. It's still, saying that out loud, still kind of weird. Like, I could see where you're going at, but like, just keep that in the back of your mind.
A lot of the rooms have button and number pads that you can even interact with. So why isn't the secret ending this crazy puzzle, where on night 5, you need to explore the whole location for clues and pieces of the puzzle so you can input some special code that then unlocks the baby minigame for you to play. That way, not only would the environments actually be put to good use, but the 8-bit minigame would feel way less disconnected from the rest of the game than it currently does. FNAF 3 has this insanely cool secret ending that requires you to
What the hell is that? I need to see this. I think it's third party. I'll check back. But just looking at, yeah, it's third party. If it's not, then I apologize.
Requires you to punch numbers
That's
into the wall
interesting, though.
tiles, explore the cameras, and glitch in and out of minigames. Scott has done similar stuff to what I'm asking for right now. It just feels like such a waste to have this ending essentially locked behind an extras menu game. I am a master at this minigame now, though. I mean, just watch this.
Alright, let's get this shit over with. Oh my god.
Lamest way to unlock a secret ending in the series thus far aside, what about the actual meat and potatoes here? What about Ennard Night? Once you've successfully given the ice cream to Elizabeth Afton, you're able to go back into night 5 and reach the secret ending. To do that, you have to play the game normally until you reach the part where Baby instructs you with directions in the dark. Instead of listening to her, immediately go up and right to reach the private room. The private room is set up like a classic FNAF game, with a couple twists. You have the standard doors on each side of the room and a camera to check the location. But now there's a top vent as well that you can close. This night features Ennard trying to get into the room by using any of the 3 entrances. It's your job to track them on the camera and block the correct doors when the time is right. However, there's a catch. The power in this is brutal. If you lose too much power at any point during the night, it's probably game over. The actual goal here is to not use your cameras as much as possible to save power, and instead, listen to Ennard's audio cues to time your movements.
It's
Every
really
time
good.
Ennard moves, a sound can be heard. You can use these sounds to track them throughout the location without even checking the cameras. Essentially what this boils down to is checking the 3 cameras that are closest to the 3 different room entrances and using his positions on the cameras mixed with his sound cues to know when to shut the doors. The night itself is actually not that hard. It's pretty simple to track Ennard, and it only really gets super crazy near the end. The real challenge here comes with how much power you have. It almost feels unfair at times how strict this is.
At this point, I've kind of mastered it.
Chills at the door for too
I can
long,
beat him multiple
it's hard to make
times
a
within
comeback
one
after
day.
that. During the
But I have to
multiple hours I
focus.
attempted
Like, it's
Ennard
still
Night, almost
tough.
every
Still
single
hard.
death I had was
And first
linked to
time,
running
it took
out of
me a
power, and
while,
not my own
man.
abilities to block
Long
Ennard out
time.
of the room. But wait, if this night is so simple minus the power being a bitch, why did this take me so long? Well, friends, it's time to introduce you to the absolute worst of Sister Location's checkpoint system. I'm just gonna be straight up here. If I wasn't making a video on this game, there is no way in hell I would have actually gone through with beating this. But I did. Oh, I did. And now I'm here to tell the tale. Okay, so as we've already established, Ennard Night has an extremely strict power limit that makes it a pretty tough challenge that will realistically take an average player quite a while to overcome. Most tough FNAF challenges are like this, so that's not that big of a surprise. It's never an issue though, because if you die, you can always just restart from the beginning right away and give it another shot. But how silly of me. I forgot, this isn't just most FNAF games. This is Sister Location. So what was messed up this time? What do you think the punishment is for losing Ennard Night? You're sent all the way back to the very start of the night. Not the start of Ennard Night, the start of Sister Location Night 5. Yes, every single time you lose, in this hard challenge, you have to crawl through the auditorium again, do baby's keypad again, click all the buttons again, watch her slowly move on the conveyor belt again, disobey her orders again, and crawl to the safe room again. Every single time. Somehow,
I could
this
hear him
isn't the
clapping.
worst part. In this game, full of scripted elements that never change,
The
one of
one part.
few things-
Okay, I can stop there. The one thing that's randomly generated is the needed to retry the Ender Night. And first time on the Switch, it was so annoying and absurd. But like now, I just put like since I have it on the PC, I just put the mouse at like my mouse sensitivity. If you have that, I just put it at the lowest and just move and be careful. I still die at it, and it's still annoying. Especially with the back of my mind. I could easily die here because it's a very tight window. But still, it's the one randomly generated part.
In this game, full of scripted elements that never change, one of the few things that is actually randomized is the numbers you have to input on baby's tiny-ass keypad. So every single time you lose, you have to wait for baby to slowly tell you all the numbers as your hand is shaking because one small slip up on the keypad means a game over and a one-way ticket back to the start of the night. This is insane.
Okay, he's saying the start of the night. As your average Sister Location, like a reviewer, and you're watching this review, you're like, God, that's absurd! But, like, if I'm gonna be honest, although it is absurd, it's not as absurd as if you actually started at the beginning of the night. You have to go through exotic butters, you have to go through the people that hung themselves or entered hung them or whatever, and then go through the freaking fall time. At least you don't have to go through exotic butters and the shining the light. But it like, I don't know. Like, as a consumer, if I didn't play the game or watch the game and I heard that, I would say, I'm not doing that. But like, the only annoying part is the keypad. Everything else isn't that bad, admittedly.
This turns Enter Night into an absolute slog to actually beat and increases the runtime of the game for literally no reason. I think now would be the best time to finally talk about the awful cursor Sister Location has. For some reason, instead of just using your computer's normal mouse, the game replaces it with a terrible custom cursor that is comically large. It makes looking around any room feel weird. For some reason, the mouse bends and curves with the cylinder
I never
effect,
got that.
which looks super
I
bad.
didn't realize it
makes
until
sections like
revisiting
the
it,
keypad
but
one
it's weird.
an absolute pain because of how large and finicky the cursor is. Because of this fake cursor, Sister Location is one of those evil games that traps your regular mouse in place and makes it unusable in any section where the fake cursor is in use. So if you need to tab out for a second, too bad. Either close the entire game, force the fucking task manager open to free yourself, or exit to the title screen to get the normal mouse back.
I'm lucky that I have a laptop with a touchscreen. So I press Windows and I go to the touchscreen and I just if it's like stuck. It does that for the Ultimate Custom Night Game Over. This entire game for the juniors, the 3D sections, for some other things as well, like the Joy of Creation, sometimes. But again,
absolutely terrible. But
yeah, okay. So far, the review, first, it was not getting me. This private room stuff, I can understand it. I think everyone can understand it. But, like, a lot of the other stuff, just no. I just do not understand.
Terrible. But hey, at least the music track here is pretty goddamn good. Leon Riskin did an incredible job with Sister Location's OST. In fact, I've played a lot of the tracks from it during this video. The obvious standouts here are Venta Black and Watch Your Six, but there's a lot of great ambient tracks here. Anyway, once Enter Night is finally completed, Michael Afton goes home, finishes his TV show finally,
Venta Black is
and lives
awesome.
happily ever after with Enter. The end.
The blue.
Again. And that
the blue
was
end.
Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location. A game
he makes it sound terrible. He said he was gonna be fair, but he wasn't. He was constantly in. You know what connotation is, right? You know what connotation and mood and tone and all that stuff. He was sounding intimidating. making it sound like this game is D, F tier. This game is trash. I do not recommend. Do not waste your money on this game. Waste your money on the game. It's good. It's kind of like elections. Look, I'm not old enough to vote. I'm not close to that, but you know I get them ads, all right? And like they're talking about the bad stuff that it'll do and never talk about the good stuff. That's what he's doing. This is like the first bad video, and it's like, wow. I do not like this video. Especially as a Sister Location fanatic. I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of disrespecting the good parts of the game. Yeah, it mentions like Funtime Freddy and the jump scares, but anything else? No. Which is saddening to hear. I hope he covers the custom night, because the custom night I think is pretty sick. And I will cover that on the channel soon. Probably a few days, hopefully. But I just feel like he didn't talk about the whole game. He only talked about the bad parts, and it made it look bad when it didn't need to.
With a lot of good ideas that is sadly bogged down with its lackluster gameplay, insane game design choices, and near complete lack of replayability. As much as I do not like this game, I still care about it and wish it was better because there's so much cool stuff here. I wouldn't have made this massive video if I wasn't passionate about all this. Trust me. Anyway, if you like or even love Sister Location,
I don't get this clip.
I'm just grateful you even gave this video the time of day and heard me out. If you have any strong opinions about the game, please leave them in the comments. I would love to read
write a
some hot
paragraph,
takes, regardless if they are positive or negative. But
I would
forgetting
read
something, aren't I? Right. Custom Night. A few months after Sister Location
I would write a
came
paragraph.
out, Scott put out a Custom Night update that builds upon the base work laid out by Ennard Night. What are my thoughts on it? Mostly positive, actually. In fact, I really enjoyed playing it, so much that I think it would be weird to tack on this really positive section at the end of a mostly negative, comprehensive breakdown video.
Are you going to talk about it?
So, tune in eventually. I don't know 100% when, but eventually for a follow-up to this video where I go...
This is a good custom night. This is a good custom night. I like this custom night. It was fun.
For everything about Custom Night, I want to thank you all for watching this entire
I had
video.
fun
Acid for making the
doing all the
hilarious
challenges.
thumbnail, Imposter for doing a segment earlier on. I don't see myself making another video this long for a while, so I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I've been Uhyeah, and have a good one, everybody.
I don't like the way it was formatted, but I enjoyed watching it. I want to read the comments. I want to read the comments. I'm curious on what other people think about this game. I am curious. So let's see. Look right here. We got Circus Baby. Front stage, center stage. What I learned from this video, if you want to collab with Uhyeah, just hold him at gunpoint. Okay. That's great. Now, Sister Location was the point when I felt there was a major shift in the series. If I had to compare it to a movie, Sister Location would be like that one installment in the series where the movie decides to ditch the formula that its preview installments had and tried to do its own thing, both visual and story-wise. I could see that. Sister Location was the series jumping the shark. It was a good shift to not being the same and branching into more. Yeah! Yeah! This guy feels me. Halloween 3 comes to mind for me. Felt like the game lost its charm after Sister Location. Okay. I really like this game, but I don't think anyone can be mad at you because this is a very hit or miss game. Mr. King Dice, I wanna see your reasoning. Not really. Major hit for me. Major miss for me. Would you look at that? Collected data in this thread for so far says it's a hit or miss game. The main defense I see for the horror to sci-fi switch that Sister Location made was that, oh, but the FNAF 2 animatronics had facial recognition in 1987, which I personally felt like was an in-universe corporate excuse for why they behave so uncannily, like, oh, hey, why is that hunk of junk looking at me funny? Oh, It's a feature and a facial recognition so that you and your family can be safe. Definitely not haunted or possessed by the vengeful spirits of dead kids or anything. Maybe. If those kids could read, they'd be very upset. Nice to see Pastor show up. Definitely someone who deserves more relevance. Yep. Yeah, that's true. Yes. Chef's kiss. Beautiful intro. Beautiful intro. It is. With all due respect, those are not the design choices we are curious about, Mr. Afton. It's where the name Afton becomes canon in game, I think. I understand it from a lore perspective, but I like the skill-based checking cameras and closing doors of the other games. You see, at least this guy respects it from a different perspective. That's something, by what I saw. But by what he was talking about and how he was projecting it, he's like, FNAF is FNAF. Which I can get, but the game is obviously different. Despite what he says, for me, Sister Location is one of, if the cleanest and well horror-balanced FNAF game there is, in my opinion. The graphics are clean and the gameplay clean. The voice acting is amazing and the horror elements are clean. Also, the lore story being told is quite interesting to me, at least. The only downside is if you die, you start over, and if you are a casual FNAF enjoyer, it will feel like hell. So I think that's the only bad thing I could say about it. Other than that, it's a great FNAF game. I rarely see people who like the game. You see, I see where this guy's coming from. Sister Location Squad, rise up. Yeah, it felt so different from the other FNAFs. Really loved it. Still, the problems, lore and gameplay-wise, really hurt. Death by 1,000 pinches. The game feels more like a visual novel than a game, but even most of those have choices you can make. The biggest jump scare in the entire game was 100% Imposter's intro. I love Sister Location, and it's one of my favorite FNAF games. I love how stuff changes each night, and you will always have a new challenge to deal with. But I also can't wait to see your opinion on this FNAF game. Keep up the great work. I watched the vid, and I respect your view on the game. To be honest, I hated Night 4, but I think everyone who played Sister Location did. I'm going to replay the game today and see if I like it as much as I used to. Well, hope you'll have fun. What the hell? Okay. I'm going to write my own response in a minute. Each night more stuff is added or made harder until you beat the game. Imagine if FNAF had 50 nights. It's also insane. It's been 8 years since the franchise was made by Skyrocket. Okay, so I'm going to make a legitimate response. He said he loves seeing the criticism and uncriticism. I'm going to start off with a really hot take. This is my favorite FNAF game. I hate more than one space when I don't need it. I just hate it. I look at this game from a story-based perspective. I might make a Sister Location video, like a response to this one. Cause it's truly a fantastic game. Wait, what did I do? No. No, shut up. I clicked on Can I Beat Cuphead without killing any minions. Oh wait, is my comment still existent?
You can crawl. It's equipped with some of the...
Okay, I'll see you guys when it's done. Okay guys, I have my reasoning right here. And I'm about to comment. Okay. Told you I'd write a whole paragraph. FNAF Sister Location is my favorite FNAF game. The atmosphere and ambience makes it a truly scary and fun experience. I look at it from a story-based perspective, and if you look at it that way, it does its job really well. It might not be that intriguing when dying over and over again or replaying the game entirely, but the true scares I get from this game is what makes it fun, almost the whole way through. I have my criticism for Night 4 and very heavy criticism for Night 3, but overall it's fantastic. Private Room is amazing and the Custom Night is fun too. So that is the overall simplified reasoning I have for this being my favorite FNAF game. So as a Sister Location fan, I was angry for a lot of the video, but I respect your opinions, although I highly disagree. So I didn't add the recording part, but also just the amount of frightening moments I had made it fun. That is the only FNAF game that was actually scary when playing it. Even revisiting it, it was actually more scary than originally because I had headphones on and I wasn't many feet or meters away from a TV and I was playing it right at a laptop. like probably a couple feet away from me. Yeah, so, yeah, that was the reaction to, Sister Location video, and I just want to see this opening again, because it was actually a pretty sick intro.
There's no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. This is clearly pushing the engine. There are just certain design choices that were made for this game that we don't fully understand. We were hoping that you could shed some light on those. You can walk, you can crawl. It's equipped with some of the best environments this series has ever seen. It has a variety of gameplay styles. It even has an entire voice cast. With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Coffin.
So yeah, I also didn't mention it has an awesome intro. But yeah, that's gonna be it. This was a 2-hour long video, my god. But yeah, with that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you stuck all the way here, thank you so much. I seriously appreciate it. Yeah, video was formatted well. The opinions, I highly disagree with a lot of them, but I respect your opinion for thinking it's the worst other than Security Breach and hopefully FNAF World. FNAF World is still like C or B to me, but still. So with that, thank you guys so much for sticking around. Yeah, if you saw the comments, that's what you asked for. If you're seeing the video, thanks, I guess. This is my favorite FNAF game, and that's why I decided to make a 2-hour long reaction video to it. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.